Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on my 2000 Wrangler. We're taking a little break working on the project car behind us simply because it's too cold to do any of the work that we need to do to finish it up. But in the meantime, let me show you what is wrong with our Jeep. Alright, so about a week ago, now it's been very cold here. In fact, right now it's only about 15 degrees out. It's supposed to get -2 or 3 tonight. So that's why our videos have slowed down in this last month or two. But anyhow, when this cold weather came in, the Jeep decided to fail. And that's what it does. So it's got a brand new battery in it, so I know it's not the battery. I would check the starter just to make sure it's not the starter, but I'm pretty confident that it's not the starter. After doing a little bit of research, I found a common issue with these early 2000 Wranglers is the ignition actuator, which is, of course, connected to the ignition. There's a little metal piece that breaks. And when that does so, then it doesn't, when you turn the key, then the actuator doesn't turn your ignition switch, so then you get what we have going on now. So if it wasn't really cold out, I would take the time and go out and test everything, test the relays, test the starter, make sure everything's good. But I have a hunch that everything out there is fine, so I'm just going to skip that and go ahead and replace the actuator and the ignition switch while I'm at it. And then also I'm going to replace the multifunction switch, which is this turn signal switch, because it is bad. I've had some turn signal issues for quite a while since I bought the Jeep. So while we're in there, I'm going to go ahead and replace it, and then we'll see if everything works. So let me grab some tools and we'll get to it. Now, because we are going to be messing with the steering column and disconnecting some electrical plugs, I went ahead and disconnected the negative terminal on the battery, just be on the safe side so we don't get a exploded airbag in our face. Alright, first thing first, there should be some screws. Let's take the key out. Some Phillips screws down here. I think it's Phillips. Yeah. I don't know if there's a screw in this one. Oh, why couldn't this broke in the summertime? Alright, so once you get screw here, screw here, screw here, there's 3 of them. Get those out. It's like a clamshell, just kind of somehow pops off here. There we go. Alright, so it's pretty hard to see, but there's 3 bolts back here holding this instrument cluster, holding this down. So now this should be able to lift off of here, which it did. And now we should be able to pull this off. Maybe. Hopefully. Please. Now set the camera back down.
A few moments later.
Alright guys, so it's getting dark, but I finally did get the upper shroud off the steering column. I just had to kind of muscle it off of there. This back piece here kept catching on the steering wheel and there was no way to squeeze it out of there, so I was afraid pulling it too hard to break it, but it all worked out. So now what we gotta do is take these 2 screws out to pop the multifunction switch off, and then the actuator and the actuator is right here, and let's get the light. Yeah, a little better. So the actuator is right here, which we're replacing, and the ignition switch is right here, which we're replacing. So we may just have to wait for a couple days to finish this off, because I can't feel my fingers or my toes, and we'll wait for this to get a little warmer and come out and finish. But hey guys, so it's a couple days later. It's not above freezing yet, but the sun's out and it's manageable. So I'm going to take advantage of the little time we have here and try to get the Jeep finished up, and so we can get it running again. So where we left off the last time, or the other day, is we got the shroud off around the steering wheel, and I took a bunch of stuff off around it to make it easier, and that's about as far as we got until my fingertips about froze off. So what I need to do now is take some screws out right here. That's where the actuator is, and then there's a screw up here that I'll need to take out somewhere up top here, which will release the ignition switch. And then I also need to take off this multi-function switch right here, which is bad, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the whole completely out of the steering wheel, and we're going to be replacing those three things. So like I said, the problem we were having with the Jeep, ever since I bought it, I had issues with the turn signal switch. It was just doing some weird stuff. It didn't work half the time, and then my tail lights were doing weird things, and I think it's pretty much tracing back to the switch. And then a couple weeks ago, came out to start the Jeep, and like I showed you earlier in the video, we have power. Put the key in the run position, radio comes on, everything comes on, but it wouldn't turn over. So I'm pretty confident it's this actuator switch. We'll know when we get it out of there if it's broken or not, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If it's not that, then we'll be backtracking a little bit and then checking the relays and the starter, which you know, typically you'd probably want to do those things first, but the other day when I started on this, I mean, it was just unbearably cold out here, and I just tried to get as much done as I could, but I'm pretty confident it's this actuator, so let's go ahead and get to it. So there's 3 security screws, I think. One here, maybe just 2, we'll see. Looks like just 2 screws, and there is a spring underneath this cover, so be careful taking this off if you ever happen to do this. So there's the spring there. There's the spring. We got a new one. And now let's take off the multi-function switch. I'll show you what I'm doing here. So there's a screw here that I just took out, and then there's one right here I need to take out. And then this multi-function switch should pretty much just lift right out of there once we unplug the wiring harness to it. Alright, and then once you got there's a little plastic shroud or plastic garment that kind of goes over the switch, and then it goes over the actual lever. Once you get that off of there, this just lifts right out, and then you got 2 plugs on the back side here you need to unplug. I'll set the camera down so I can get the other one. Alright, now we got the multi-function switch out of the way. And you can see we got one more security screw right here that takes off the ignition switch. So we'll go ahead and grab that. Alright, in order to get all this to slide out, you have to put the key in the on position and then you can push this little button right here. And then once you do that, then the barrel should slide out of there. Let me put this down so I can get another hand on it. Now, here's the actuator right here. Should slide out and kind of work its way out here around this wire. And then we got to unplug the ignition switch. And this will just actually pull straight out, so pull that out. Alright guys, so now that I have all this removed, I'm not so sure that's actually the problem. I was really pretty convinced it was this actuator. What happens is this metal piece right here, which fits inside the slot of this ignition switch and turns it, those are known to break. And based upon the problems I was having, that's what it sounded like it was. And I kind of jumped the gun and started tearing things apart before I really kind of started testing things, but my own fault. Like I said, I'm not a professional mechanic by any means. I just kind of piddle with my cars and learn things as we go. And this might be one of those lessons. So what we're going to do now, before I start throwing stuff back in, is I'm going to actually test the starter, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Be right back. So I have the Jeep in neutral, battery's reconnected, and if I touch this to the positive, if the starter's good, we should hear it crank. So we hear the click. So again, I'm not a professional mechanic, but based on a little bit of research and what it's doing, we have a bad starter. So everything we did inside the car, the ignition, was a waste of time. When you put all that back together, go to the parts store and grab a starter, and we'll get this fixed up. So I'll be right back. Alright guys, so hopefully we got this where you can see it. But the starter's right here. I already got the wires undone. So I've got 2 bolts to take out, and then this should come right out. Alright guys, so the new starter is in place. Now I went ahead and hooked up our test wire again, and we'll see if we get different results this time. So go ahead and connect this to the positive, and we should hear it try to crank. And there we go. So problem fixed. So now I need to go in and put the steering wheel back together. There you go. There you heard it. So problem was the starter. I should have tested this before I did anything with the steering wheel, but that's all right. We need to replace the multifunction switch anyway because it was bad. But I am going to go ahead and leave put the ignition switch and the actuator back in there because they were fine, and get it all buttoned back up. So let me plug in this ignition wire, and we'll get back in the Jeep. Alright guys, so we're back inside the Jeep here. I'm going to go ahead and get everything buttoned backed up here, and then let me clean my lens. Then we'll see if we can get it turned over. All right, put this back over the top. Where it went, I don't remember. It's nice having the key comes out. So this Goes right there, like so. Okay, let's go ahead and put the new multifunction switch in. All right, here's our new switch. It sits right down in here, like so. Trying to get this one. There it goes. And that one. Okay. There's the multifunction switch. Put this one back where it goes, like so. All right, guys, to show you what I'm working on here. Just putting the little garment down with these screws, tightening down all the levers. Get that other one in real quick. I don't want to over tighten, but yeah, there we go. All right, so before I put the plastic shrouds or I could keep calling them shrouds, but whatever they are, around the steering column, I'm going to go ahead and hook up the battery and see if it will start. All right, let's do that. All right, guys. Man, it's cold out here. I think I've said that a few times. Moment of truth. Let's see if it starts. Oh yeah. We got our Jeep back, guys. What a relief. Alright, well, let me get all this plastic back in place and we'll call this video a wrap. So alright guys, so that's a wrap for today's episode. A little bit of a Jeep fix. I'm glad it's running. It's been a few weeks since we've had it going, and it's good to have it back. So any of you have a TJ Wrangler and experience some issues with it starting, always check the starter first. It'll save you some work, but pretty easy to work on. But anyway, hopefully in the next few days we'll get back to working on the Mustang. It is supposed to get warmer, and I need some decent weather so I can finish working on priming the bumper and getting it ready to paint and getting a little bit of a cosmetic appearance upgrade installed. So hopefully we'll get some new videos coming out, and once the weather does turn for the better, we'll get a lot more content going and get the channel back running on track. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and catch you next time on Casey's Garage.